Hey everyone, welcome in. I'm your host, Axton Harding. This is the IDP Plus channel, and you sit tight because in just a moment, we're going to get into all things fantasy football on the New England Patriots. Welcome back to the IDP Plus podcast. As I mentioned in the intro, I'm your host, Axton Harding. You can find me on Twitter at AxmanIDP. And I've just been starting this team review series where I'm going to cover as many teams as I can up until the start of the season and just kind of talk all things fantasy, top to bottom, coaching, offensive line, offense, defense, everything as it pertains to fantasy football. And changes we can expect, outlooks, sleepers, good values, avoids, whatever I can bring to the table, I'm going to try to do it for you in this series. So today we're covering the New England Patriots. I just kind of want you guys to kind of follow along with me as I've kind of looked through some of these depth charts. I've already done some preliminary research to kind of add to the conversation, but I want you guys to see kind of what I'm looking at here as well. So to kind of start off, we'll jump into just coaching changes that we can expect, or that we can kind of look at and see what have these coaches tendencies been in the past, and how can that apply to this team moving forward, and what can we expect as a result for production for fantasy football on both sides of the ball. So to start here for the New England Patriots, they got all new coaching staff, so we're kind of having a whole new regime change where, like, after Bill Belichick, the next regime was kind of like a Bill Belichick successor, trying to kind of carry on the same kind of tendencies and play style, coaching schemes, and it just kind of fell apart. So now they're trying to rebrand and rebuild, and they bring in head coach Mike Vrabel from the Tennessee Titans. A defensive-minded head coach who's going to bring a lot of change to this defense in terms of rotation, snap counts, and just different looks. We'll get into a little bit more of that later, but I think what we can expect this year on the defensive side of the ball is a lot less rotation than what we've seen under the Bill Belichick era since early 2000s. As long as I played IDP for much, which is what, like the last 5 years or so. Excuse me. So as long as I played IDP, I've not really been excited to roster about any New England Patriots, so this will be kind of intriguing to kind of get into and look forward to this season. So aside from Mike Vrabel, they got a new offensive coordinator in Josh McDaniels, who comes over after being former head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders last year. And then they got a new defensive coordinator, but I'm not all that worried about who that might be, considering Mike Vrabel is probably going to be steering the boat on the defensive side of the ball, so I'd be more interested in Mike Vrabel's tendencies than the defensive coordinator. Defensive coordinator is ultimately just going to kind of play out Mike Vrabel's will anyways, the way I see it. So now if we look at Josh McDaniels and kind of tendencies from prior years of his with the Las Vegas Raiders last year, we kind of saw them be more of a pass-first offense where they were kind of where they were about middle of the league in pass attempts and then bottom 10 in the league in overall rush attempts among NFL teams in 2024. Now we also have to kind of consider that the Las Vegas offense really wasn't really capable of putting up top 10 numbers no matter kind of how you spun it. So, take that with a grain of salt. Either way, the kind of distribution leads you to believe that they're going to be a pass-first offense and they're going to do quite a bit more passing. So, I imagine with Drake Maye that Josh McDaniels is going to be pretty excited to kind of implement his scheme with a lot better personnel on the offensive side of the ball. So, it'd be kind of interesting to see how this plays out. I bet they drafted a second-round running back and added some pass catchers to this room. So I think there's some more potential here. We could see a lot more Drake Maye pass attempt, just a lot more passing plays and a lot more successful offense no matter how they operate it now. So it's kind of hard to analyze Josh McDaniels in Vegas because he never really had a good team. So it's like, what was the upside for the kind of scheme here? So I think we'll just kind of have to be patient. We can expect a lot of passing, and but also the league is kind of going more run heavy, and they drafted another running back. So I think we can expect some more, maybe a little bit more balanced approach than what we've seen, just because that's kind of the way that the league is kind of heading, is more run heavy. But nonetheless, they got Drake Maye. He's been great at passing, and we'll kind of jump right into some Drake Maye as well. And I'll show you guys. We'll jump into the shared screen here, where I'm just going through our lads. If you guys haven't noticed or used this before, our lads is a good a great tool to use to kind of get an idea for depth charts. They keep it pretty up to date, so it's usually pretty accurate. And I'm just going to kind of go up and down here. We're going to try to. I'm already getting a little wordy, so I'm going to try to keep this nice and concise for you guys, so it doesn't go too long, and you kind of get all of your information in a nice, easy to watch video here. So we'll jump into quarterback. Drake Maye, obviously nothing's changed here. They did add Josh Dobbs as backup. Not really going to get into much of that because he's really just banking on injury. Drake Maye, though, can finish as quarterback 23 last year, and in his rookie season, he just kind of got thrown into the fire, and it was a sink or swim situation. And overall, I would say, considering a quarterback 23 finish, that Drake Maye actually did pretty damn good. He stayed alive. He stayed on the field. He played all the rest of the games from like week 3 or 4 on. And if we take a look at, we'll kind of get in here and look at some of his stats last season, where the guy threw, again, he started in week 6. So he missed about a third of the season. Still put up 2,200 passing yards. 15 touchdowns, ran for 421 yards. I did the numbers, and he was kind of on pace for a full season at about 3,500 pass yards and about 600 rushing yards. That's Josh Allen level rushing upside in terms of just overall production, not necessarily in the touchdown department, but in terms of just a rushing floor for that yardage that we can expect. Drake Maye surprised us last year when he was putting up top end rushing quarterback numbers, at least in terms of a pace perspective. So given a full season, we could have seen him go for 600 plus yards. That's a nice 8-point floor. Just going into any game, you automatically get about 8 points just because he's just going to run the ball and there's a chance he might score. So now you add the passing game to that, you get a better coach, you get Stephon Diggs in this pass catcher room, and now you add a young guy in Kyle Williams, bring in Matt Collins. Yes, he's got some new chemistry to kind of develop with these new pass catchers, but Drake Maye was on pace for some pretty respectable numbers in year 1, considering the offensive line was bottom 5 in pass and run block, just overall bottom 5 offensive line. And they've kind of made some changes to improve that. I actually didn't get into the offensive lineman like I probably should have. But we'll kind of touch on that a little bit. They retained 2 guys from last season. They drafted a left tackle, and let's see here. We'll get back. What's his name? It's Will Campbell. First round draft pick in Will Campbell. And then they move Cole Strange to guard at a center from the Minnesota Vikings, who's actually more of Bradbury is a good run blocker, not as great in the pass block department, but as a center, you kind of have some help on both sides of you to help make up for your lack of kind of pass protection. So you've got some help there. I think run blocking is going to help a lot there at center. And then you would go to the right tackle. They lost the right tackle, and now they add Morgan Moses, formerly of the New York Jets, who comes in as more of a balanced blocker. He graded as a 69 graded pass blocker and a 60 graded run blocker, where Bradbury was a 70 run blocker and a 40 pass blocker. So more balanced approach. I think that this is, you can't really hurt this offensive line, a bottom 5 unit from a year ago. So I imagine that we could probably see more middling, still probably bottom half, but maybe they get up to like 20th or something like that. That's still an improvement considering the kind of numbers that we were just talking about for Drake Maye and the kind of pace that he was on. I think that this is kind of a good position for him to be in, and we can expect some more production with already on pace for 3,500 yards, and he was getting freaking mauled in the Patriots backfield. So there's some good upside here. At QB 23 last year, he's kind of going as a bottom end quarterback 2. I think there's some quarterback 1 upside. After quarterback 8, it's kind of open for whoever can fill those last 4 spots of the QB 1 kind of tier there. And Drake Maye could very well be one of those candidates with the kind of upside that we like to see in the rushing, with the rushing aspect of his game to kind of jump up from that middling or lowing quarterback 2 to a quarterback 1. I'm not going to say go pay quarterback 1 numbers, and if you're going to trade for him in Dynasty, you're probably going to pay something like that because the community is going to value him that way. But in drafts, he's not really being valued the kind of way that you would expect, considering how much it's going to cost to obtain him. So not necessarily that he's got a super premium on him, but people know what they have, so they're going to expect you to kind of pay up a little bit there. But in drafts, people are kind of leaving him for, not necessarily for dead, but they're not really excited about having him as his quarterback 2. So they're probably more going to draft him as a quarterback 3 and then hope that he has that upside. So that's really where the value is going to be, is in your drafts. But nonetheless, definitely some upside here for Drake Maye. Now let's get into a little bit more about, let's go to the backfield here. We'll look at the depth chart again. Ramondre Stevenson signed a 4-year deal with the prior regime. Now that new regime and Mike Vrabel comes in, I imagine that leash for Ramondre Stevenson is going to be a lot shorter, considering especially they drafted their guy in Travion Henderson, who brings to the table some great pass blocking ability, and he's going to be on the field. So should Ramondre not... he's probably going to get first crack. He's got the money on him. He's got the extension, but Ramondre Stevenson's going to have a short leash, I would imagine. So I think we can expect, if he can't get rid of his fumbling troubles, we can probably expect Travion Henderson to get in sooner than later. And if you look at drafts, Travion Henderson's actually coming off the board sooner than Ramondre Stevenson, but nobody's out here touting Travion Henderson as... And then this is even season-long leagues where Travion's going before. But nobody's on Twitter, nobody's out there advertising that Travion Henderson is just going to take over this backfield. Nobody is overly excited about Travion Henderson at this point in the offseason in terms of taking over the role right away. But they're drafting him that way. So it's kind of it's a tricky thing here. So for season-long leagues, I'm not excited about drafting Travion Henderson. Kind of where he's going in about the 6th round, kind of assuming that he's just going to right away take over this role. Ramondre Stevenson, you got to figure that he's going to have to he knows that he's going to be in the hot seat with a new coaching staff after he just got his extension and they drafted a 2nd round running back, because that's telling you, hey, don't make a mistake, don't trip, because we got a guy right here that can come in and take over should you falter. So I think Ramondre is going to know and probably work on some of those ball security kind of aspects to his game, but we'll see. He's had RB1 upside should things go right in a full season, but I mean, I'm not sure. It's not this new regime's guy. He's definitely a guy that would, in terms of draft and dynasty value, he's not going to be hard to acquire, but I'm not going out there and looking to obtain Ramondre Stevenson. You're not going to sell him. I would say he's a hold. He's probably not going to cost you much in draft. If you want to stash him late, probably not going to be that much of a loss if he doesn't pan out. But if he does pan out, you could be looking at an easy flip for a 10th round draft pick to a 1st round draft pick if things go perfectly right. Travion Henderson it really muddies the water there, and a lot of people are more confident in Travion Henderson this year. So just kind of take this running back room with a grain of salt. If you stashing Travion Henderson may not be a bad idea, but I'm just often finding that there's a lot more valuable players around where he's getting drafted who are going to put up production all season long. So I have a hard time taking Travion Henderson in season-long leagues where he's going. Dynasty startup value is going to be fairly high as well. It's going to be tough to kind of go out and get Travion Henderson at any kind of value, so you might have to be patient with him a little bit for this season, but I do like Travion Henderson long term. I think he is an outstanding player, so I just might have to be a little bit patient this year. There's not a whole lot of value to be extracted from Henderson. Ramondre possibly, considering he's probably going to get first crack, but not overly excited about that one. Now, if we look at the pass catchers, they added Stephon Diggs, Matt Collins, Kyle Williams in the NFL draft. They still have Demario Douglas in the slot. And considering the offense is going to probably get more pass heavy, they haven't really had a whole lot of weapons in the past. Diggs is coming off injury. I think Kyle Williams could be used a little bit more in the offense, especially right away, considering the lack of depth in this room. Matt Collins isn't a guy that's going to keep a guy like Kyle Williams off if he really pops. So I like Kyle Williams in the later rounds to kind of stash on your bench in season-long leagues. He's a guy who's drafting in the 3rd round of my dynasty drafts as well. So I kind of like the idea of Kyle Williams, especially in a room that doesn't really have a whole lot of proven talent aside from Stephon Diggs, who's kind of approaching his 31-year-old season. But Stephon Diggs, I think, is going to be a good value here. He's kind of ultimately like a very late round pick in season-long leagues. People just aren't very excited about him. But Drake Maye presented a lot of flashes and a lot of upside for a rookie quarterback last season, and now he's got a new coaching staff, new support. He's got a whole new regime change. He's got a new offensive line. He's got new weapons. Man, things are looking up. I mean, he was bottom third-ish of the league in performance last year. I think that we can expect some more higher end quarterback 2 numbers, and as a result, you got to figure those targets are going to be going to guys like Stephon Diggs. I'm not going to be really excited about Matt Collins. I'm not going to advocate for any kind of stash or any kind of certain play there. He's going to be a very consistent and mind-numbing player to rosters. I would not be touching Matt Collins, even Demario Douglas. Demario Douglas might be more of a stash in your dynasty leagues. Should he kind of more pop in a second-hand role as opposed to a star role. The last couple of seasons, it's kind of been Demario Douglas, been the top pass catcher, but maybe now that he can kind of seed targets to Stephon Diggs and Kyle Williams, maybe that opens up lanes for Demario Douglas, but he'd be more of a stash. In season-long leagues, I'm probably not even drafting him, but you keep an eye on him, just kind of see how this team is going to operate, and you might be able to pick him up early in the season, but dynasty stash. Kyle Williams, kind of again, I'm not excited about drafting him high in season-long leagues, but definitely somebody you want to pick up if you can get him on the low, get him for an additional little piece in a larger trade or something for dynasty leagues. I like Kyle Williams. So, now let's look at Hunter Henry and the tight end room. They retain Austin Hooper, so I'm not really too excited about the depth in this team, but Hunter Henry was a respectable player last season. When we look at stats, he's always been this guy that nobody really likes to roster, but he's put up respectable numbers. Let's just see what kind of finishes. Tight end 9, 13, 10. Nothing crazy. Tight end 12 last season. Nothing crazy, but he's definitely a guy who's putting up decent numbers. Look at these points per game. 15, 8, 18, 11, 15, 16, 21, 14. Then he kind of disappears for a few games. 22.9. I mean, Hunter Henry was probably Drake Maye's favorite target last year, and it shows. I mean, that connection they've already developed is going to bode well moving forward. I think Hunter Henry is going to be somebody that Drake Maye can be kind of a go-to guy for while he kind of warms up to some of these new pass catchers and develops that chemistry there. So I think Hunter Henry is going to have some value. He's going extremely late in drafts, and he's a guy I really wouldn't mind having as a tight end 2 who could easily jump in a good matchup and be my tight end 1. Be a nice fill-in for a bye week or something like that. I'm not going to go out and advocate for Hunter Henry as a tight end 1, even though he's pretty well finished as one in terms of a top 12 tight end. Probably going to keep finishing around the same kind of place that he has been, but nonetheless, he's a really good value, and he's a great backup to have. And should your starter go down, I think he's going to put up even respectable numbers. But again, I'm not really going to advocate. I would not be, going out and grabbing Hunter Henry expecting to want to put him in your tight end spot and give you and be your starter for the entire season. So I think I would treat him more as a backup. You could probably get him for really cheap. Being 30 years old in dynasty leagues, you just throw him into the bottom as kind of a gap bridger, for lack of better terms, when there's a value discrepancy. Be a nice addition. Here a while back, I kind of added to someone like that in Brenton Strange, who's kind of got a good outlook and an upward trajectory, just to as kind of a throw-in rather than a third. I'd rather get a guy with opportunity, and someone like Hunter Henry presents that. So he could be a buy low, but doesn't really have a whole lot of longevity. It's just more of a short-term window here for Hunter Henry, but definitely somebody who's going to add some nice depth to it. All right, now we're done with the offensive side of the ball. So I just want to talk to you guys a little bit about our friends over at Fast Draft before we get into the defensive side of the ball. Fast Draft, in case you don't know what best ball is, you draft your team, forget about it, you check back at the end of the season, and ultimately the software will start your best lineup every week. You have so many slots that you can start in, that you can have starters in, and your top scorers just get slot in it. So you draft 6 players in Fast Draft, 4 players enter your lineup automatically every week. You check back at the end of the season, see if you won some cash, because the way that this works is it's based on overall points. So the total points you score during the entire season is kind of where you place. And they pay out thousands of dollars through hundreds of positions. So you might win $10, $5, you might win a few $1,000, who knows? But you put your name in the hat several times, you draft 20 or 30 teams, kind of give you more of a chance to kind of win. And you never know, you might win some extra cash. It's only $5 or $10 per draft. And if you get in on your first time, I can get you a deposit match of up to $50. Your first time deposit, you deposit $50, we'll get you $50 to matched up. Just use code PLUSAX today and get that $50 deposit match. But guys, this has really been a fun time. I have been in there. They've got all IDP, they've got rookies, they've got flex drafts, and it's just 6 rounds, takes 10 minutes. Draft your 6 players. I've drafted 20 or 25 teams in IDP already. It's been a lot of fun, and it helps you stay fresh on player values, ADPs, and things like that. It's just been a good time, and then you put your hat in here again, as I mentioned before, check back at the end of the season. See, maybe you want some cash throughout the year. But yeah, you don't really have to worry about it. There's no setting your lineups. There's no, you can add as many teams as you want. You don't have to worry about going and managing them. You just check back whenever you have time. So that's kind of why I like things like that. So get in there, use use code PLUSAX on your first deposit, and we'll get you $50 matched there. So now let's jump into the Patriots defense. There's a lot of change here. We're going to kind of get into that. So Mike Vrabel, again, historically, the New England Patriots, if we look here at the IDP Plus website, I should have signed in. I thought I did, but we'll just kind of talk more about it anyways. Historically, the New England Patriots have been a very rotational type of defense on the defensive line. Linebackers, defensive backs have just been, they're like a five safety or 5 defensive back kind of team. They run a little short in the front end. So defensive backs have kind of been not really all that lucrative for IDP. We've seen Kyle Duggar have some good seasons here and there, but nothing consistent. But if we want to look at the defensive line to start, we'll kind of go through the depth chart here, and we'll look on our lads here. Defensive end, they retain Keon White. They have Christian Barmore still on the interior defensive line. They added Milton Williams from the Philadelphia Eagles. He had a great season in 2024 with them. And then they add Harold Landry from Tennessee. And they retain Anthony Jennings. Anthony Jennings is probably the only one of these guys whose value is not going to change a whole lot, just because he was playing about 75% of snaps last year. He has that about 50 to 60 tackle floor, but that's about it. He doesn't have a whole lot of upside, so I'm not super excited about a guy like Anthony Jennings. And even with Mike Vrabel's new defense coming in, he's probably maxed out on his snaps. So what we've seen is probably what we're going to get for a guy like Anthony Jennings. So not overly excited about a guy like him, but maybe a guy more like Keon White, defensive end, or no, actually more like Christian Barmore, because Keon White actually played a substantial amount of snaps last year, probably the amount we would expect for Mike Vrabel to come in and bring in this rotation. I think the only difference is we're just going to have another guy who's going to be full-time snaps as well, and that's probably going to be Harold Landry. Harold Landry comes in, haven't played for Mike Vrabel. They also added Jack Gibbons, as you can see from the graphic here. So Mike Vrabel brings in some of his guys. I think he brought in Harold Landry to be more of kind of a run-stuffing presence on the defensive line as opposed to more of a pass-rushing presence. Maybe because of the different look in this makeup, or of the makeup on this team, that he gets Harold Landry in more pass-rush snaps. But historically, Harold Landry grades a lot better as a run stopper instead of a pass rusher. He's pretty 40-ish graded pass rusher and like a 70+ graded run blocker, and it shows in his splits too. He plays a lot more run blocking or run stuffing snaps than he does pass rushing. So we just kind of, he kind of has a floor of like a defensive lineman too, and he's kind of underappreciated. A lot of people don't really like to draft Harold Landry, but he does present a nice floor. He can get upwards of 70 or 80 tackles in a season, which gives us a nice and outstanding floor here for IDP production. And if we even look, show you guys, get in here and share the sleeper stats. Yeah, the upwards of 12 sacks. He's kind of been sitting around 9, 10, 11 to double-digit sacks, but then he can get us 70 to 80 tackles in a season too. So a guy like Harold Landry, and I guess here I can probably get into the shared screen here. So yeah, you guys see that there are 9 sacks, 10, 9, 12. I mean, and then the 70 to 80 tackle floor. Yeah, a guy like Harold Landry's probably got a floor of a DL2, but he's kind of he's getting drafted often as a DL3 or later, so there's some value in drafts. Not really looking to acquire him in any dynasty leagues just because the upside's not really there. Usually if you're going to go acquire somebody in dynasty leagues, you want to acquire somebody who's going to increase in value, and Harold Landry just really isn't all that valuable. People aren't really going to pay a whole lot for him, and he's not going to have a whole lot more value than what he already has because he's not, just considering the kind of player that he is and more of a tackling kind of savant as opposed to a pass rusher. He's kind of maxed his pass rush upside unless he can get more pass rush snaps. That's kind of what I was alluding to earlier. Maybe the different look of this defense will allow him to get more pass rush snaps, and in that aspect, then we can expect a higher upside from a guy like Harold Landry. But for now, we have to value him in kind of what history's told us and how Mike Vrabel has even used him in the past. So Mike Vrabel uses him a lot more in run stepping situations as opposed to pass rushing. So we're just kind of take it with a grain of salt. Like I said, he's an outstanding defensive lineman too for your team, and he doesn't get valued that way. So there's a little upside compared to his value, but just kind of capped on that ceiling there until he gets more pass rush snaps. But Christian Barmore is a guy who didn't play, came back from his blood clots, didn't play a whole lot of snaps. But he's somebody who I really like on the interior defensive line, who could get a lot of extra run. And now that he's next to Milton Williams, Keon White, they've really bulked up this defensive line. And if we get some more consistency in terms of full-time play and more consistent snap production, where we're not seeing guys get 50 to 60, we're seeing more like 60 to 70 for full-time players. I'm pretty sure Harold Landry is playing 80+% of snaps, but I'm not going to say that's going to be the case necessarily for a guy like Christian Barmore. But we could see him jump from 40 to 50 to 60, 65% of snaps, and that would be great. So we'll just kind of keep an eye on a guy like Christian Barmore. I'm not saying go out and draft these guys super high. In all honesty, I haven't seen either one of these guys really drafted high at all. They're more like late round stashes for if you have an extremely late or extremely deep redraft league or season long league. But we're more or less going to just kind of keep an eye on these guys and just see how the team has utilized them. If in week one they get a substantial amount of snaps, I think that's something we can really bank on. We can swoop in and get that value before they really just pop. So just keep an eye on these guys in the defensive line early on, because they got talent. And with this new coaching staff and the way they're going to use these guys, I think we're going to see a lot more consistency in terms of snap share, and then as a result of production as well. So it's going to be fun to kind of keep an eye on this New England defensive line. So keep an eye on these guys. I think Milton Williams would be fun for your defensive tackle leagues. But more specifically for them, because I don't think he's going to present a lot of upside in just overall defensive line leagues, where he's not just going to break the game and have 80 tackles and 15 sacks or anything like that. So it's more on defensive tackle required leagues, where he's going to be kind of more of a top end option for you. But he's kind of, after especially that run last season, he's kind of he's not overvalued, but his value's up there, so it's going to be tough. I'm not really looking to acquire him. I don't think he's really just going to completely explode in value. And that's really where his value only lies, is those defensive tackle required leagues. Now I think a guy like Christian Barmore could bring more to the table, where he hasn't really popped yet. And with more snaps, maybe we could see. We've already seen kind of some flashes there with the tackling floor, so maybe he can add some, and maybe Milton Williams can get back there too. We've seen defensive tackles get back there and rush the passer and put up some nice sack numbers, but I just want to see it on paper. So just keep an eye on these interior defensive linemen. I really like them, and we'll just kind of see how that plays out this season. But I'm not really overly excited to go out and draft them and use a roster spot at this point in time, because there's too many guys ahead of them that we know are going to put points and food on the table for us. So now we'll look at the linebacker room, and we'll talk a little. Robert Spillane comes in from Las Vegas. They retain Christian Ellis. And this is a team who, under Mike Vrabel, is going to run 2 full-time linebackers. If you look at snap counts last season, we were seeing they were running 2 full-time linebackers at any given time. I mean, they kind of had some injury woes, but it was 100% of snaps. It was Kenneth Murray. I think it was Kenneth Murray. They had changed. Tennessee's changed linebackers so often, I'd have to go back and remember exactly who was there. But there was a few guys I was looking at the snap counts, 100%. Some guys were there all season. Some guys have missed a game or two, but no matter what, they had 2 full-time linebackers. So I think we're going to see a lot of Bob Spillane. People are worried about him. He's not really there's kind of some value to be extracted here for Robert Spillane. In fast draft specifically, I got him at a 20 ADP value, where he's a guy who's historically the last couple of years is going to finish as the top 10 linebacker, but he's being drafted in the 4th or 5th round. Something's not making sense there. So people aren't really excited about Robert Spillane, because historically they've had a rotational linebacker room. So this really hasn't been a room that people are excited to have a linebacker for. Usually if you've had a guy like Juwan Bentley, who's been the stud in this room before, he still played 70-ish% of snaps, never really played the kind of snaps that we want to see. So we never got really the production we wanted to see either. So we kind of just sat on your bench. But Robert Spillane's a lot better than Juwan Bentley, and he's put up 140, 150 tackles in the season. So I think that they went out and got a guy like Robert Spillane because they plan to use him on the field 100% of the time. So I think Robert Spillane is going to be pretty ho-hum for what we've seen the last couple of seasons. Who knows, with the different makeup, new team, new regime. I mean, the opportunity is there for something to look different about his game, but I think we can expect a nice floor for tackles. So might be a nice time to kind of swoop in and get Robert Spillane on the low. Still, 29, 30 years old. He's still got few good seasons left in the tank. For your dynasty leagues, it might not be a bad buy low. There's definitely value in drafts, so if he's falling down the board, keep an eye on him. Definitely a good guy to have even for an LB2, LB1 type. Maybe you could draft him as an LB3 with LB1 upside. That'd be an outstanding value for your season-long leagues. Then again, in dynasty leagues, there's some value to be extracted. People are nervous about him, so if you can take advantage of some Robert Spillane, yeah. Then there's also Christian Ellis. Christian Ellis is somebody who I'm pretty excited about this season as well, being drafted as kind of an LB5-6 type to go on your bench. He's a guy who's going to get the kind of full snaps that Robert Spillane has. It's just the only difference is he's going to be the LB2. He's not going to be in that primary run stuffing role right there waiting for the funnel to come to him. He's going to have to kind of go out and get it, and he might be more involved in some pass rush snaps as well. We've kind of seen that a little bit from Christian Ellis. These Ellis brothers are something else. So I really like the idea of another Ellis brother getting in and getting some full-time snaps. So Christian Ellis has presented some upside here. Let's just kind of take a look at some stats. Oh, just see if he's had full-time snaps. What does his performance look like? And if we show this here. So last year, I mean, we saw him getting 9 tackles in a game, not even on full-time snaps. Those are part-time snaps, 40 to 50 snaps. I can't, y'all, we need to team up and get with Sleeper to fix this snap count deal. They go back and forth on whether it's actual percentage or actual number of snaps. I think here we're looking at an actual number of snaps. If I had to guess, 40 to 50 snaps in a game, just considering the kind of production he's putting up. If you're only playing 20 to 30 snaps, there's no way you're getting 9 tackles unless you're just extremely efficient. So I have to imagine that these are the actual snaps, and given around 40 to 50 snaps is probably like 60% of snaps, roughly. So he's getting 9 tackles, and he's rushing the passer. Those are things that we like to see. Then down there, I would say week 18, 100% of snaps makes sense. Week 18, it's not a overly competitive game, but 13 tackles. We've seen that upside. Then we also see the floor. The floor was 4 tackles, but on part-time snaps, that doesn't really worry me. That's actually a pretty high floor for a guy who's playing 40 or playing 60% of snaps. Bump that up to 100. We're looking at like a 6 to 7 tackle floor, and I think Christian Ellis is gonna take advantage of this opportunity. And if he doesn't, then we could expect a guy like Jack Gibbons, who Mike Vrabel also brought from Tennessee, who I mentioned earlier, who I think might be a stash. I think Jack Gibbons would be a good stash. I've been drafting him late in drafts just in case something happens to Spillane or Christian Ellis in my best ball leagues where there's a lot deeper benches. I've been drafting Jack Gibbons later in drafts just in case. I mean, in best ball, you kind of you got your team, and that's it. So if you lose guys, you kind of need some backups. Jack Gibbons is a good backup. If one of these guys goes down, he's going to get you 8 or 9 tackles minimum a game. He's a stud. But coming off a nasty injury, he's going to need some time to heal. Christian Ellis was here first. Christian Ellis is going to get the opportunity, I would imagine. So, and I think he's going to live up to it. I think Jack Gibbons has historically been kind of a back-end rotational depth piece anyways, especially for Mike Vrabel. So, not really too overly excited for Jack Gibbons to take over. So, again, there's a good value in Christian Ellis being drafted as a linebacker 4, 5, 6. And there's probably linebacker 2 to 3, low 2, high 3 upside. Maybe even more with a guy like him. You never know how this season's going to play out. And I think being on the field 100% of snaps is going to give him plenty of opportunities. So I think there's some good value there for Christian Ellis. Get him in the bottom of a trade, just kind of a throw in if you need him. Draft him later in draft. Set him on your bench and just kind of wait and watch and just see how this defense is going to play out. Because I think we're going to be excited about the lack of rotation that we see coming from a Mike Vrabel-led defense. So then if we want to touch on the defensive backs, I'm not really too much of a defensive back savant, but I do know Kyle Duggar is about the only one that's had a pretty high-end ceiling. And it's really inconsistent. None of these guys are guys who are going to overly perform in IDP, give us a kind of consistent production that we like to see from the defensive back position. They're just going to be up and down. I do think maybe if I was going to target somebody and just see later on in my draft, I might like some Carlton Davis just because he's opposite Christian Gonzalez when they get into a pass-happy kind of matchup where they're playing like the Bengals or something like that, a team that's going to throw the ball 40-plus times a game. I think teams are going to go away from Christian Gonzalez, and as a result, hit a lot of Carlton Davis. And historically in his career, too, he's kind of made money on just being picked on. In Detroit, he got picked on. He got thrown the ball a lot. He kind of had some decent production for us. Let's actually go in and just take a look at some Carlton Davis. Yeah, see, we're seeing, 7 tackles, 10 tackles. He gets picked on, and he's not a great defender, but he puts up kind of production for IDP. whenever he gets a full-time role. So Christian Gonzalez is more of a lockdown corner, and I think teams are going to end up targeting the opposite side of the field. So there might be some value to extract here in Carlton Davis, especially in those high volume passing matchups that we can expect teams to just be airing it out on him. Now, if they're going to play a team like like a low volume passing team, who I'm blanking right now just off the top of my head. But if they go play the Jets, you're not really going to be excited about starting a Carlton Davis, because Justin Fields not going to throw the ball 20 times a game, and at that point you don't have a whole lot of opportunity for him to tackle a pass catcher. You're just hoping that he lines up around the line of scrimmage and gets a run or two and stuffs him that way. But Carlton Davis, I think, could have some value. He's basically free, probably not even draft him, pick him up off waivers. I mean, I'm not going to go out and trade for a guy like this or anything like that. But there might be, this probably is going to be one of the more valuable positions. It's just kind of how defensive back position ends up working, unless you have a tried and true stud who's just consistently put up that production, like your Kyle Hamiltons, Brian Branch, Derwin James, guys like that who have just had that consistent production. You kind of got to extract it the way that you can. It's going to be pass-happy matchups, and a guy like Carlton Davis across from a shutdown corner just kind of presents some opportunity for us to kind of take advantage of some good matchups there. So, you know what? That's going to wrap it up for my my team preview series on the New England Patriots. Thank you guys for watching. This has been a lot of fun to kind of jump into these teams, talk coaching, offensive line, offense, defense. It's just been cool to kind of jump in and dive into it all at once here. So I hope you guys like it. If you do, throw down a like, throw a comment. Let me know what team you want me to do next. I'll be looking after the Jets next. I'll be looking to jump into another division. I'd like to try to get these out more frequently to kind of get, my soft goal is to get through all 32 teams, but we'll see how that kind of plays out. So bear with me, guys. Again, thank you for watching. This has been so much fun, and I appreciate every one of you for joining me each week to kind of check this out. And I hope it adds value to how you kind of treat your season this year. So if it does, let me know. I appreciate it. It all helps the algorithm, and I hope you'll consider a subscription and turn on the notifications on YouTube so next ones that come out, you don't miss them. Consider a subscription to the website as well. We've got tons of new tools. You get in the Discord, get your questions answered, get multiple opinions on any of your fantasy questions. Check out our articles and everything like that too. So go check out the website at idpplus.com. Again, fast draft, use code PLUSAX, get that $50 deposit match. And then also, before we get out of here, get on Amazon.com, get your consistency guide. Bob Lung dropped his 10th annual edition of the Consistency Guide. It just gives a different look to fantasy in terms of consistency, and something that not a whole lot of people are looking at the fantasy landscape with this kind of perspective. So it's $15. Go check it out on Amazon. It might help you with your drafts this season. So again, thanks everybody, and we'll see you back next time for the New York Jets. So today we covered the New England Patriots, and that's going to be a wrap. So we'll see you next time. Let's see. Outro.
Thank you for watching the IDP Plus YouTube network. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Be sure to tap the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload new content.